Or do we have to hold the coffee?
Well, I suppose we should start holding the coffee.
Yeah, maybe we can put it down after a little while.
I think the best place to start is, what is a SIA or SIA, depending?
Yes, so SIA is plural, and SIA basically stands for Summize Intelligent Agents. So really it's a collection of agents that all are responsible for individual tasks and kind of underpins everything to do with the Summize CLM. So it's not one identity, it's kind of underpinning all the functionality within the whole CLM.
So it's not like just one kind of AI bot that's doing everything for you. It's a collection of things doing kind of different processes.
Yeah, exactly that. I think what we've realized when we've obviously been using AI in the product for a number of years, but when we looked at the application of Gen AI and how we can use it, we really see it as an enhancement at several points across the CLM. We certainly don't see it as a replacement for any of the functionality we currently offer. So we're trying to inject, I guess, specific pieces of the AI technology into certain workflows. And to do that best, we use multiple different agents that can either work in a linear fashion or in parallel. And I guess that really amplifies the power of this technology rather than relying on one agent to do everything in one go.
So if you were to bring that into the legal world, obviously you've worked as a lawyer, where particularly, whether it's around contracting or actually other things around in-house legal work, where do you think it's most relevant for customers?
I mean, most lawyers that work in-house probably agree with this statement, that you spend so much time doing not necessarily administrative tasks, but certainly lower value tasks that you always hear the phrase, did I really train in law school for all those years to do, these tasks? And you kind of picture yourself on an episode of Suits, kind of really solving these complex cases, and the reality probably isn't quite like that, or certainly hasn't been to date. And I think where this really helps is any of those kind of just manual tasks, even in our world for contract review. I mean, probably about 70% of the time of contract review is spent just finding the bits you need to find to be able to make your assessment whether you should redline it, for example. And it's that type of process that we're looking to apply the technology to.
Are there any particular scenarios that you remember from your work in-house that you would love to go back now? Let's imagine you've got a time machine and you can go back and have access to SIA within old you. What would you choose?
Oh, I mean, it's everything. I mean, in some ways, which is why we've called it SIA, because it underpins every aspect of a day-to-day life. I mean, from trying to get the business to be quite, more self-sufficient, the amount of questions I used to get, whether it's to create a new contract, whether it's actually, when was the renewal for, this particular contract, or what did we agree last time for this contract? Like the amount of day-to-day questions that no one ever actually adds up, or no one actually ever probably takes a note because it's so reactive in terms of dealing with these queries. But all of those will be taken care of by SIA in the new world.
Right, so it is the kind of ad hoc things that, like questions, for example, that stop you doing the work that's actually important.
Yeah, I think I'd break SIA down into two kind of very different areas. One is that more natural language chat, and we actually replicate that with the interface. For example, like we make it, Ask SIA is exactly that. It's designed to replicate a human interaction. It's a chatbot that'll give you an answer, and it replicates those type of queries. The other part of SIA, which is probably in some ways the more interesting part, is that we have our existing workflows. So we might do a full red line of a document. SIA plays its part in that, and we have multiple agents that are working away in the background, but the user interface very much is exactly how you do it today. It's finding the relevant bits, it's triaging that against a playbook or your knowledge or previous precedent contract, for example, and then it's going to suggest red lines and comments, but it all happens in Word. So SIA is really relevant there, but it's actually playing into your existing workflow and process that you already do today.
With lawyers in mind, how do you manage trust? Because AI is still quite new, and legal are still probably working out different ways in order to incorporate it as part of their professional workflows.
Yeah.
How do they trust what SIA tells them is correct and is going to actually help them, rather than just be kind of ChatGPT hallucinations, for example?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think certainly from my side, this was something that we've been almost paranoid about. I think from me as a user, almost like it's a very high bar for the development team actually, because they don't have to just create a great product using this great technology, but they have to get it past the highest hurdle, which is almost, would I have used it being a lawyer in-house? And would I have actually understood how it worked to the point where I'd trust it? And so at every stage where we use SIA, whether it's in the review process that I talked about earlier, and we kind of show you the audit trail. So we tell you exactly how it came to the decision, so it's rationale. We also tell you the content it used to get to the rationale, and that's fundamentally important. I think a lot of people that go down the, use the LLM and use its knowledge that it's trained on the internet, are ultimately where these hallucinations happen and where you can sometimes get mistakes. We're really, really strict about the information it gets access to, and we'll tell you exactly what information it's relied on to be able to give that answer. So at every stage, you know how it's arrived, its reasoning, you know exactly what that's based on in terms of the reference material. So you can then decide at every point whether you trust that, whether you edit it, whether you want it to look at something else. And then you are the one that decides, now I want to do the red line, for example, and it's you that makes that decision.
So it's like, I think two things there, one of which is showing a chain of thought, so you know how it gets to whatever answer it's arrived at. And the other seems to be, so it's supervised rather than necessarily doing your job for you.
Yeah, and I think that's massively important. I mean, I've always been quite a big advocate of the fact that, you know, legal is fundamentally an advisory service. It's not transactional. So we don't necessarily want AI to replace doing those transactions. What we're trying to do is get the advice augmented. We're trying to take away the manual work, and we're trying to allow the advisor to have all the information at their fingertips, but ultimately it's them with the knowledge that they have, whether that's business that day, where they are in their life cycle as a business. It could be external, like macroeconomic environment that could influence how you react to certain things. All that information is usually in the lawyer's head, or is the lawyer that wants to use that knowledge combined with what the AI can provide, but then make that conscious decision, not just leave it completely to AI that won't necessarily have those considerations.
Solving problems rather than redlining contracts.
This is it.
Sounds awesome. Thanks,
Cheers to that.
Cheers.